In this video, we're going to share how to do bevel cuts in tile using Montolit's Toprofile. The Toprofile is a professional machine specifically for making bevels in tile or stone. You can also make bullnose cuts as well. Before you get started, you need a silica dust respirator, gloves, you need some hearing protection, and safety protection for your eyes. We're going to be using this STL blade later on. This simply goes over top of a 4.5 inch angle grinder. It's necessary for dressing the top of the edge of the tile. Now this is the Toprofile bag. That's the Toprofile. It's a really great machine for making bevel cuts in tile. You get a little wrench with it, so if you need to replace any of the hardware, you can do that with the wrench. You got plenty of room in the bag, and this is what the Toprofile looks like from the front. You've got your blade on the bottom, and you've got your slide plate, which is made out of scratch-resistant plastic, and that's really important because you don't want to be scratching sensitive stones like marble or granite. So the slide plate will go over top of the material that's going to be cut using that blade, which is very sharp. We highly recommend using a HEPA Vac that you can plug the Toprofile into. This is Fine's HEPA Vac, so you plug the Toprofile into it, put it to the right setting. That way when the Toprofile is turned on, the HEPA Vac turns on as well. What you do here is you unscrew this little bar that holds the HEPA Vac hose in, and you just tighten that down so that it will suck out all of the dust whenever you're cutting these tiles. So this is a piece of porcelain. This was kind of our first run to see how the Toprofile would work. You always want to support the tile with clamps and have it overhang your support. Now we're going to be using the STL. This is a diamond cup wheel you put in an angle grinder, and you need to remove the edge of the tile using something like this so that it makes the job of the Toprofile a little bit easier. Do you necessarily have to do this? Well, Montolit recommends that you do it this way, and that way you'll prolong the grinder blades for the Toprofile. So what you do here, and this is a really big tip, is you got to turn it over. You got to turn your tile or stone over, clamp it back in place, and that way you can use the Toprofile, but make sure it's running in the direction indicated on the tool. And then you can make a mark about halfway down the tile, the thickness of the tile, as an indicator of how much you've cut through the tile. You want to let the Toprofile do the job. You don't want to have to force it excessively across the edge of the tile. You want to let the Toprofile do most of the work, and that's critical for the longevity of the tool and also the results that you want to get when you're making a bevel. Make sure you butt the Toprofile up against the edge and you'll get a really nice bevel. Now this porcelain is not the best, and you'll notice certain spots that have chips out of it. This was kind of our first run just to see how it would go. So then we did a second run on another scrap piece of the same porcelain to see if we could get better results. Again, letting the Toprofile do most of the work. You want to hold it with even pressure with both hands until you get to the end, and you don't want to let the Toprofile rotate itself around the edge of the tile. This is the Toprofile grinding wheel that we use to make that bevel cut, and it's got diamonds along the outer perimeter. You want to press down the button on the top of the grinder attached to the Toprofile, and while you're pressing down on that button, you remove the threaded flange that's holding the grinding wheel in place. Remove the grinding wheel by just pulling it off, and there are two spacers along with a support ring. That support ring now goes back on the spindle. You remove the two spacers, and then you just put your grinding wheel back in place as you removed it. And basically what this does is allow the grinding wheel to make a bigger bevel cut on the surface of the tile. So those two spacers come preloaded on the Toprofile because you're basically wanting to build up that bevel cut. So as we made this second pass without the spacers, you can see it's a much deeper bevel cut in the tile, and that's what you're trying to accomplish. So you're going to make like 2 or 3 passes with the spacer rings and then 2 or 3 passes without them, and you'll get a nice smooth bevel in your porcelain or ceramic tile. And as you can see here, it really turned out great. It was smooth. Now the quality of the bevel is also going to depend on the quality of the tile, and this tile wasn't all that great, but we still got a great looking bevel. The next test that we wanted to do was on a piece of 12-inch by 24-inch slate. So we just put this down, we clamped it to our 2x10, we overhung the 2x10 by a few inches, like 2 inches, and then used the STL diamond cup wheel to again remove the topmost portion of that piece of tile. So the outside corner of the tile, we just wanted to remove that using the STL. We're going to remove the clamps and then flip the tile back over. This is the critical spot that you don't want to forget to do, because remember, the top profile is making a bevel on the top portion of the tile or stone. So if you don't flip the tile over, you're going to be making the bevel on the wrong side. Again, what you want to do is allow the top profile to do most of the work as you're moving it across the top of the tile. As you get to the end, you want to put more pressure on the left handle than the right, just a little bit, so that the top profile doesn't dip and dig into the surface of the bevel. And you'll see here in a second that still kind of happened to me, because this was the first time I was using the top profile on a piece of slate. So if we turn it over and we inspect the surface of that and see what happened, you'll see a nice smooth bevel, except for right there in the lower left hand corner. The top profile made a little bit more of a groove in that portion of the tile. But again, you get a really great, nice bevel using the top profile. You just got to make sure you hold on to it when you get to the end of the piece of tile or stone. So that's one of our biggest tips. The next test was on a piece of 12 by 24 inch marble. So again, removing the top edge with the STL, flipping the marble over and allowing it to overhang the 2 by 10 by 2 inches minimum, and allowing the top profile to cut that beveled edge nice and smooth. Again, just keeping constant pressure up against the beveled edge with both hands, and then when you get to the end, trying to prevent the top profile from spinning out and creating a groove. I really had a tough time with that, but I'm pretty sure that with more practice, that wouldn't be an issue whatsoever. And you can see here I got a little bit of a depression in that last edge up against the bevel. But if you're doing a miter joint, that's not a big deal. That's going to be hidden. If you're doing a bevel, you'll want to get that to look perfect. But if you polish that edge, it's going to look awesome. So now we're going to be doing a bullnose using the FPB 05TP. This is a radius of 5 millimeters or 3/16 of an inch. So you just got to remove the old grinding wheel like we did earlier in the video. Take that off, and you don't want any of the spacers on top of that support ring. So you just put the support ring back in place and you remove both spacers. Put the grinding wheel back in place with the threaded flange and tighten that down with the wrench clockwise. So again, don't have any of the spacers in place when you're creating a rounded edge with the top profile. You just want the top profile to do most of the work. You don't have to remove the top edge with a diamond cup wheel. You can just have at it with the rounded grinding wheel to create that bull nose. And as you'll see here with that HEPA Vac, not a lot of dust. And we got a great rounded edge on this marble, which is nice because if you're going to be using this, let's say in a shower or at a threshold, you just created a nice rounded edge for that space in your room. The top profile did a great job with the rounded bullnose edge, and it does come in different radiuses, so you can get grinding wheels with different radiuses to create a different size rounded edge. So looked really good with the marble. What does it look like with the slate? So we did the exact same thing with the top profile. Let it do the job that it needed to do. You don't have to cut the top edge off. And as you see here, it looks pretty slick. And none of this is with a polishing pad. So if you got polishing pads, I'm sure it would look better. And by the way, if you've got a recommendation for different polishing pads, let us know in the comments. But we're very happy with the rounded edge that we got with the top profile on this piece of slate. Very slick. Great tool for either a bevel or a rounded edge. We've got plenty of space in the bag where you can put your grinding wheels. The top profile will fit in there. You've got a lot of space. The bag is nice. It's heavy duty, and you can store the top profile for when you need it. But overall, we're really happy with how this little tool worked. If you need to create a bevel, a miter, a chamfer, or a rounded edge, totally check it out.